Oklahoma football fans, college football fans, welcome in to Oklahoma at the voice of college football. This is Oklahoma Sooners Live. I'm your host, Josh Mahler, and it is Texas Hate Week. It is Red River Rivalry Week. Red River Shootout, I accept both of those, really. I know it's a big debate. I don't take the whole showdown thing. I think that's kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. Red River Rivalry has always been what I've known it as. Let me know what you guys like for the rivalry name itself. I think the RRR, the triple R. I guess I don't know if for some reason that's appealing to me. That's just always what I've called it. I've never, and it was never called that out of like a PR thing either. So I'm all for it. Red River Shootout is fun. The only reason why I prefer the other one, obviously for the reasons I just gave, but I also just think that shootout to me, in the sport of football, really in most sports, a shootout is high scoring games. You know, both sides, you're high scoring. I'm not for that as much anymore because this is Oklahoma football, and Oklahoma is known to be a defensive program right now. I mean, we're going to talk more about it. But anyways, no, I think it's fun. Red River Rivalry, Red River Shootout. I am down for either one of them. I think I just always defer to Red River Rivalry. But I mean, I like both of them. They're just fine. Just not the showdown. Showdown just doesn't even sound fun. I don't know. It just sounds like a kid's day at the park or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, welcome in, everybody. We are going to be previewing, predicting all that fun stuff with this Oklahoma and Texas rivalry. It's a really fun one this year, and it could have been a lot more fun if Texas didn't end up losing. We'll talk about all of that and much more and kind of give our thoughts. I do have Cole Thompson from SEC Unfiltered joining me here in a little bit. And whenever he gets on here, we will talk more about the matchup. But obviously, before we get into it, first, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Two free and easy ways to support this channel, support our network, and to help us keep on growing. Of course, we are live. We're trying to be live as often as we can on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and even post-game on Saturdays. A bunch of content for you guys, for Oklahoma fans. Of course, I apologize, not able to make it on Tuesday, just kind of unexpectedly out of town. Then I ended up working overnight last night and didn't even get back to my hotel until like 2:30. Finally got back home today. So it's been a long week. But anyways, I'm hoping to see some of our Texas friends that like to chirp when Oklahoma's playing other teams. Hopefully they can jump in the chat tonight as well. But jump in that live chat. All super chats, donations will be read tonight live on the show. Since it's rivalry week, it will probably be a busier chat. So if you want to make sure that your chat is read, then all the donations and super chats will be read 100% of the time on the show. If you want to support the channel a little bit further, that's a great way to do it. Otherwise, you can also scan the QR code there on the screen or click the link down in the description below to become a member today for as low as $2.99 a month. Of course, you can join Sooner Nation membership tier for $2.99, Boomer Legends Club at $4.99, and then the Red River Royalty at $9.99. It's the perfect week to sign up for that Red River Royalty package. But anyways, if you want to help support us a little bit further, help us keep on growing, that's a great way to do it. Otherwise, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment down below. If you're watching it live, you can jump in the live chat, and we will try to bounce over to that live chat as often as we can tonight. Like I said, Cole Thompson going to be joining me here in just a moment, but let's get into it. Red River Rivalry, Red River Shootout. I will name it both ways as often as I can to appease everyone. But the biggest storyline that seems to be hitting the waves all week, and it's just kind of getting annoying at this point, so I don't want to expand too much on this, but does John Mateer play? Drop that in the comments below. Do you guys think that John Mateer will play against Texas this Saturday? When Oklahoma takes the field in Dallas, Texas, will John Mateer be that #1 quarterback? I am still split. I rely on some of the sources that I've seen saying that they have a very, very good feeling that he's going to be playing out there. And I think that's probably the case. And the reason why I think John Mateer will play is because he is a competitor. He does want to play in this game. You come to Oklahoma to play in this game. You come to Texas to play in this game. And for Oklahoma, I think this rivalry means even a little bit more now for Oklahoma specifically, because they don't have another rivalry anymore. You think about it, Oklahoma doesn't have Oklahoma State. Oklahoma doesn't have Nebraska. Those were the two big rivalries when you go back throughout the history for Oklahoma. So this really is a very big rivalry for Oklahoma, and obviously coming down to it, I'm really curious to see if John Mateer does end up playing. I have a very sneaky suspicion that he will. It also would not surprise me at all if all of the media is all about John Mateer playing this week. Yet maybe a little bit of trickery there towards the end, towards closer to game time. But we shall see. We will find out. But anyways, without further ado, let me bring in my guest for this fine evening. I've got Cole Thompson from SEC Unfiltered here with me. Cole, how we doing, man?
Dude, it's going to be on. I'm excited. I leave tomorrow morning to get down to Dallas. This is going to be one of those games that, I tell people all the time, there's great rivalries in the SEC. There's great matchups throughout college football. But in my humble opinion, the thing that brings out what made us all fall in love with the Saturday game is what we see in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl when the Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns meet. And you brought up a lot of good points. This is the one rivalry left, I think, for Oklahoma. I think that this rivalry means more to Texas than it does Texas A&M rivalry. Like those are just things that truly are very special to what has been an accolade of dominance and really front and center stage of moments that we talk about in the lore of college football. So I'm excited to see what this game is. And the thing that I always tell people, you never know what to expect in the Red River Shootout, especially because if you think you know one thing and then you completely see the other thing happen.
Yeah, it really is one of those games that you just see such chaos, and it happens in a lot of rivalry games, I suppose. But whenever they're this special and when there's so much to this, and you mentioned the pageantry of the Red River rivalry is something that's so much different than any other rivalry in any sport, let alone in college football, where you have the state fair surrounding you. You're
Yeah.
split at the 50-yard line. When players run out of the tunnel, depending on which side your fan base is sitting on, you're hearing boos leading into cheering, or vice versa. And half the game it's a home game, half the game it's a away game. It's just such chaos. And I've heard NFL players that have played in this game talking about how in the NFL it feels like that every week. Maybe not with that kind of energy from the fan base and everything, but it feels like that every week because in the NFL, just because of the chaos that surrounds it, and it really is truly a special spectacle in the world of college football.
I tell people all the time because they always ask, why is this a game that is never a home and home matchup? And I say, well, it's actually closer to Norman than it is to Austin to get to the world's largest state fair. I mean, like that's where it is. And that's why I love this game is because of, and it also, I mean, this is John, this is just completely like off the record, but like, this is the one game to where if they said, hey, we're going to move it to a new location, I would tie myself to the Cotton Bowl and watch as the bulldozer had to take me down with it because there are certain things that we just don't touch. Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. If you remake Back to the Future, congratulations. I will boycott that and make sure that nobody has ever seen it the light of day. It's the same thing with this rivalry. You keep it in the Cotton Bowl. There's something special about this being a home matchup for 30 minutes and a road matchup for the next 30. There's something special about this being where you can walk outside and get a corn dog and an ice cold beer and then walk right back into the stadium. There's something special about you being able to play a boardwalk game and then be able to watch as some fan from Texas or some fan from Oklahoma, depending on what sideline you sit on, they end up walking out in a wallow of sorrows because of their team lost. And the thing that really I love about this game more than anything else, and it's a lot like Michigan versus Ohio State, not always the best team wins. I mean, last season, we saw Michael Hawkins have a horrendous performance and Texas was able to win. The year before, Texas went to the college football playoff. They lost to Dylan Gabriel. I mean, like, that's what you just got to remember is that take logic, take knowledge, take what you know about this game, throw it out the window because what you think that you know is never what you actually see.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point there too. So backing up to that 2023 season with Oklahoma, they win against Texas in kind of an incredible fashion. The defense making their big stands, first, second, third, and fourth and goal right there, and stop Texas within the 10-yard line. And then marching it down with less than 2 minutes to go and no timeouts. Drake Stoops big plays, Dylan Gabriel big plays. Finally getting it to Nick Anderson in the back of the end zone is sealing the deal. Big time win for Oklahoma. And then, like you mentioned, Texas ends up going on to the college football playoff, and Oklahoma didn't even make the Big 12 playoff because they ended up kind of celebrating that win way too much moving on. This year, you saw Oklahoma win a big time matchup against Michigan at home and then have to turn around later on and go against Auburn at home also. And that's where I was thinking, this is kind of a trap for Oklahoma in the sense that you've got to be careful that you don't get into that same comfortable feeling that, hey, we just beat a top team. We can move on and keep on celebrating these big wins. Instead, you've got to move on and move on to the next big game. And so far, you've seen Oklahoma do that. Now, arguably the biggest game of the season at this point, in your rival, your big rival, again, like I mentioned earlier, the biggest rival that you've got right now at Oklahoma. You don't really have anybody else because of all of the conference realignment and all of that. So it's really important for Oklahoma to keep their heads straight. And then, of course, all the emotion that goes into this already. You have a lot of players that grew up in Texas playing for Oklahoma. You have a lot of players that played with or against those players in high school over on Texas. So you've got this huge rivalry between these two teams, which is also another special aspect of this game, is that a lot of these are Texas players playing here in this game, and whether they're on one side or the other. And so there's a lot of emotion that goes into this game, of course, and then all the pageantry added on top of it as well. And so it's going to be a really big one for Oklahoma. And I said this about the Michigan game. I think it stands true for this Texas game now for Oklahoma, although I wouldn't have thought it would have been, because I thought Texas would have been 4-1, possibly 5-0 by the time they came into this game, and where it feels like Oklahoma really needs a win, because a loss would hurt them a lot more than a win would really do them good.
Well, the thing that you got to remember, Josh, when it comes to the schedule, you can look at Oklahoma getting a win in Red River and they're bowl eligible, and you smile and you're elated, and you're seeing change, and it feels like that. Okay, we got a top 10 defense. We've been able to win without John Mateer. We've been able to win without really being able to run the football efficiently with our top two tailbacks. We're just finding ways to be able to get past the self-inflicted wounds and capitalize on short field positions and strike. And then I have to remind everybody, as I turn your head toward the rest of the month of October and you look at that daunting schedule that you still have to face off against. You still got to go on the road to take on Tennessee. You still have to go on the road to take on South Carolina, a South Carolina team that may be better because of they had the bye week to readjust and fix all the faults that were very much an issue to begin the season. You still got to play on the road against Alabama. You still got to welcome in Missouri. You still have to welcome in LSU, an LSU team that does have a top 10 defense, and they may be able to fix the offensive faults. So it's like, the thing that you brought up that was really important was talking about that 2023 season. You get that win, and then you kind of let yourself get too big for your britches, and then you find a way to lose to Kansas on the road. And then you miss out on the Big 12 championship. Mm-hmm. That's something that you got to wonder about in this game, because of you have to put yourself in a position where it's not about winning this football game. It's about showing that you can win in different facets, to where if your fastball isn't working at full speed, you can turn to your off-speed pitch. And that can be another thing that helps you get over the top and stay in the right course, because Oklahoma, they may be one of the very few teams that I would say they have an argument if they're 9-3 to get in the college football playoff, and that the committee will take that into consideration because of their schedule. But you can't afford a loss like this if Texas doesn't hold up its end of the bargain either. Because again, Texas may end up having an incredible offensive day. It may be the best performance we see of Arch Manning all year. We might get to see this offensive line win a lot of one-on-one battles against, in my opinion, the best defensive front in college football. And then a week from now, they're struggling against Kentucky. Because that's what the Red River rivalry does. That's what this game out in the Cotton Bowl is that you see the two best versions of the rosters want to deliver, because of what this game means to not just the fans, but also to what they dealt with throughout their high school days. Because you brought this up, a lot of players in the state of Texas, they don't stay in the state. They go up north and they play in Norman and they play at Memorial Stadium, and they end up having exceptional careers. But they know the matchups that they've gone against, because they faced off against a lot of these kids in high school, and they want to have a little bit more bragging rights. So there's a lot of things that are going to go into this matchup. A win for Oklahoma, I think, does wonders. I don't think a loss hurts them as much as some other people would, simply because of, I do think that John Mateer coming back, whether it be for this game or after this game, it puts you in a very good position to where you've been able to kind of get the job done without your best asset. You're going to be able to, I think, hold your own against certain opponents. But at the same time, how you look in this matchup may tell a lot about what people can expect from you moving forward.
Yeah. And I think overall, too, with this game, you look at it, just throughout history, we were talking about this. How it just seems like it's a chaotic game all the time. But it's really odd. And I saw somebody actually threw this in the chat. I'll bring that up. Corrections 101 says, yeah, Mateer just got upgraded to probable. So that I actually just refreshed that, and as of 7:10, so about 7 minutes ago, he is now probable. So kind of maybe changing some people's views on how this game could go now. Because I know that there's a lot, and we'll get to that. A lot of people kind of predicting against Oklahoma because of John Mateer not really knowing whether he's going to be in. So most likely John Mateer is playing now. Anyways, but with this game being so chaotic and back and forth, going to overall record, 64-51, Texas leading this rivalry, and then you've got Oklahoma. Really, in the last 3 years, that's really what I think Texas and Oklahoma fans look at when you look at the last 3 seasons and see what Brent Venables has done against Steve Sarkisian, starting off getting blown out, and then you go to 2023, you come back and you have some kind of hope there with that team, and then going on, you go to last season. Oklahoma just gets throttled again, and of course, all you can blame it on all the injuries, you can blame it on everything else, but ultimately, it comes down to just Oklahoma didn't have the team that they've got this year. They don't have the offensive scheme. They don't have the offensive play caller. They didn't have a confident quarterback in that game. And no knock on Michael Hawkins. I think he's a much different player this year, obviously with better players around him,
Yeah.
better play caller, obviously. And so I think that leans into this game a lot. Going into the matchup, it would have been such a sweet game for this to be a top 10 matchup.
Oh
And
yeah.
would have been just so much more of a spectacle when you've got number 6 Oklahoma going against number 9, number 8, whatever they would have been if they would have won against Florida. Top 10 Texas, but of course they spoil that matchup. It still feels very important. And I've heard people kind of going both ways. I feel like this is an important game for Texas, more so because if they lose, it really does feel like your season is pretty much over. Once you get to that 3-3 point, what else do you have at this point? Because I don't think they have the schedule that Oklahoma has to be able to back them up and get them into the playoffs if they were to go 9-3.
No, you would have to have a lot of teams find a way to mess it up for themselves, and you still would have to win out. Which
Yeah.
again is the factor that we aren't putting in there. 9-3, I'm not ready to say won't get in the college football playoff. Now, I don't think it would be Texas, regardless, because of Texas at 9-3 with their schedule, 3 losses. Even though 2 would be on the road and 1 would be technically at a neutral site, even though we never call this a neutral site game, it maybe is a little bit beneficial. Look at your wins versus your losses. It won't be able to counteract to say you have that impressive win on the resume unless you beat Georgia, and Georgia at that point may also be 9-3. So we don't even know what that when it comes to that. But I think the point that's really essential here is that you talk about it from the Texas perspective. Texas hasn't shown you anything in their 2 Power 4 matchups that makes them look like they're a top 10 team. And this is where preseason notions come into play, and you say, well, what makes you think that, this is a top 10 team? Oh, because they start off the year top 10, and because they didn't lose enough games, and because they fell short against Ohio State, and the offense wasn't able to get anything humming, and it was week 1, and they were the preseason number 1, we're going to leave them inside the top 10, even though it's clear as day, Oklahoma looks better. I think Tennessee looks better. I think you could make a case that Vanderbilt was looking better at the time. Alabama certainly was looking better at the time. And they all had enough of a resume to say they belong ahead of Texas because of the wins that they have. But we're going to give them the accolade because of they were preseason number 1. And then when they lost to Florida and how they lost to Florida and how horrendous the offense looked, the AP poll kind of counter-corrected and said, no, now we're just going to take them out entirely. Because you never see a team go from number 9 in the country to unranked unless people realize you didn't belong here to begin with. So I thought that was already an automatic correction standpoint. But that also is, I think, a big reason why this is a massive win for Oklahoma. Because Oklahoma, you still have people out there saying, well, you beat Michigan. And yeah, Michigan's fine, but Michigan can't throw the football to save its life. Who's their number 1 receiver? That McCauley kid? And there's people out there that will say, well, he played at Indiana last year. And they'll see that logo and they'll go, well, it was Indiana. I mean, why is he playing at Indiana? And if he was so good, he'd be at Michigan already. And so they'll use that against you. And then Auburn, you get a record-setting 10 sacks on the afternoon, and you have 11 tackles for losses, and you have a pressure rate of over 50%. And then you watch Texas A&M do it, and you're like, oh, well, Auburn just must stink. Auburn must just be a terrible offense, and the quarterback play must be horrendous, and the wide receivers can't break on open. Because if Texas A&M can do it, then Oklahoma can do it. So, like, Oklahoma, from a standpoint, the last thing you want to do is give anybody more ammunition to say, well, you played against an inferior Auburn team, so that really doesn't help you. And you played against an inferior Michigan team, and that really didn't help you. And then Illinois State and Kent State. Like, it's an FCS school and a guy that fired their head coach before week 1. Like, so I think that's a reason why it's so important for Oklahoma, too, because you know what this game means. But also, there will still be people out there that will try to convince you Texas is a great team. And just because they lost to 2 teams in the SEC and a team in the Big Ten, that's what cost them a spot in being in the top 10. And that's not true. So either way, you're going to have that in the notion, so you want to be able to prove it that way.
Yeah, and I really hate the term good loss. That does not.
It's terrible.
No good loss. You can say that it was a tough loss because it was a tougher opponent. I think I would go with that. I can't get behind the good loss terminology. But for Texas, I think it was very telling in that Texas Ohio State game where Texas's season was starting to go. I saw a lot of things that were very evident that if they don't get things corrected right now, that is a very telling game for that Texas Longhorn team. And I think that's true of any team whenever they play a bigger opponent, especially in week 1. If you go into week 2, week 3 in those early season games, when you play a big opponent and you see certain struggles, it's obvious that that's probably going to be a struggle that they're going to have throughout the season. Oklahoma playing Michigan, you saw that they struggled to get any kind of ground game that wasn't John Mateer. You saw that their defense was really good at stopping the run, and guess what? They still are. You see a lot of those things ring true. For Texas, you've got an offensive line that couldn't block for their young quarterback in Arch Manning. Arch Manning throwing the ball into areas that he really shouldn't have against Texas. You saw it again against other opponents throughout the season as well. They have the big game against Sam Houston, and all of a sudden everybody thinks that he's back and he's gonna do just fine. I do still have faith in Arch Manning because I don't think all the blame should be pushed onto him. I think when you look at this team, it's very similar to what I said about Jackson Arnold a season ago. When you just don't have guys around you stepping up, and specifically your offensive line, to step up and do something, what are you supposed to do? If you can't get the run game going, how is a quarterback supposed to be able to have anything open downfield? And that's really what it comes down to with Arch Manning. I do think he's still a good quarterback, that he will find something if that offensive line can be corrected. But it's going to take some magic there for Arch Manning to get back on track.
See, Josh, you're a very, very smart Oklahoma contributor to the media spotlight, because if you're willing to admit the thing that nobody wants to, and that's it's not just an Arch problem. Like, you're not like The Athletic or the New York Times coming out here and calling him college football's biggest flop, so much so that you were able to unite Texas fans, Oklahoma fans, and Texas A&M fans all on one thing. The guy who wrote that does not know ball and is a freaking idiot. That's like, you understand, you have to be so stupid at not knowing football to unite these 3 fan bases to all agree on one thing, and that's you are a joke. So it's not an Arch problem. Arch is a problem. He doesn't look comfortable in the offense whatsoever. But how can you look comfortable when your offensive line is giving you a 2-step drawback and you're already under duress? And it may have been a problem that you noticed against Ohio State. Ohio State has arguably the best defense in college football. They are currently giving up 5 points per game. That's one thing. Florida has a good defense. It doesn't have an elite defense by any means. Florida looked elite at times for most of the afternoon in the swap against Texas offensive line. You can't run the football. You don't have a running back that can easily find creases or avenues or take on over games like he did last season. And Trey Wisner's lost a step, and he's also not playing fully healthy. CJ Baxter's out right now. As good as wide receivers as you have, they're not as good as they were from last season. I mean, look at how many times Silas Bolden and Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden broke off the line of scrimmage and made plays in space. You're not getting that separation that you want when it comes to Parker Livingston, when it comes to Ryan Wingo, when it comes to DeAndre Moore. And that's led to some very rushed and ill-advised throws from Arch that puts the ball in harm's way. Here's the crazy part. If you go back and you watch that game against Florida, both of Arch's interceptions came with clean pockets. So even when he does have a good game and he's showing you that there are things that you really like about the offensive line and it's giving you an opportunity to strike, he's now the problem. So The entire offense right now is a conundrum of just chaos and misery because of nobody has been able to truly play a cohesive, balanced matchup. And the problem is that you're going up against a team that is exceptional against the run, has a great tackle rate. They don't miss in space. They win at the line of scrimmage. They bully back against offensive linemen left and right, and they can create turnovers. So it's not a good moment where you think that, hey, we're gonna figure things out in the Cotton Bowl. You don't figure things out in the Cotton Bowl. Like, honestly, you play backyard football and hope to God that you're not the one making the last mistake, and that comes on both sides. Like, you just pray that everything goes according to plan and that somehow, some way, they give you an avenue to where a mistake ends up being a massive win in your favor. And that's where I think you're going to have to see Arch have some success, creating second chance opportunities and kind of playing the game that we saw that he had against Sam Houston that I don't think is possible because of just how good of a defensive front you have with Oklahoma. And again, I'm in agreement with you. I think that Arch will eventually figure some things out. I also think that there's a way, and this is the scary part. I could see this being Arch Manning's best game of the year. And then a week later, we see him play against Kentucky, and he's reverted right back into playing the same version that we saw against Florida.
Maybe getting a little too confident and going right back.
I don't even know if it's that. I just think that this is one of those games where I think everybody knows what's at stake, and it's not bragging rights. It's simply what a win means to the fan base and to the program and to the history of the rivalry, that everybody wants to show on up and demand excellence and act as if they are the reason why their team won the football game. They want to be that X factor. And I think that's usually why you see this be such an enticing matchup. So it's like, all the things that you thought that you knew about Texas, it shows up on Saturday. And then somehow, some way, they face off against Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's kicking the crap out of them by double digits because Vanderbilt actually is a good team, and Texas just decided to wake up for one Saturday afternoon in Dallas.
Yeah, and we'll just jump over to kind of what the strength of really both these teams is, and it's the defense. Both these teams have a good defense. Let's start off with Oklahoma. Defense, I mean, it obviously ranks as one of the best defenses, and I know you and I were talking about this last week. I say the best defense in the nation, and I think comparable to other defenses, and you and I were talking about that a little bit on X, but it's just one of the best overall defenses, only allowing 7.2 points per game, number 2 nationally there, leads the nation in defensive success rate and tackles for a loss. So they're number 1 in the nation in total defense with 193 total yards allowed. Number 1 in opponent yards per play at only 3.5 yards per play. Number 1 in sacks per game at 4.2 sacks per game. That's incredible. Leads the nation in tackles for loss per game at 10. Third down percentage at 17.4%. They're allowing third down conversions. And then leading punts per game at 8 per game. This is a defense that is just absolutely electric. And then the offense is just manageable. And last season, that's all that Oklahoma fans wanted, was a manageable offense. You put in there a top 50 offense, and you're winning games. You're winning big games with this kind of a defense. And that's what I think Oklahoma fans were just longing for. And ultimately, that's what they end up getting. I think that's what has a lot of people looking at Oklahoma right now and thinking they can win any game on that schedule because of that defense and because this offense is just good enough. You know, it's not the offense is not lighting up the scoreboard. They're scoring at a good rate at about 33, 34 points per game, but they're not lighting up the scoreboard and putting up amazing stats. Even John Mateer, when he's in and healthy and doing really well, he's not in there just throwing, 400 yards per game and 5 touchdowns through the air. I mean, he's not doing that very often. He had one big game where it was close to 400 yards in the first game of the season against Illinois State. Outside of that, he's just been solid. And the main thing is that dual threat ability. And I think Michael Hawkins Jr. can do the same thing. It's just maybe not quite as confident in some of the passes he's making, maybe not quite as quick with the reads he's making. John Mateer definitely shows that veteran playmaking ability. But, regardless of who we're playing, and I do think at this point it's probably safe to say that it is, in fact, John Mateer, I think this offense is just good enough. And what I've been saying all season is I feel confident that Oklahoma can score 20 points on just about any defense in the nation right now. I also feel confident that this defense can hold any team, any offense in the nation to less than 20 points. And I think that's where I kind of stand with this Oklahoma team.
That's a pretty good way to look at it. I think that that's kind of the way you have to look at Oklahoma right now. Defensively, they're giving you opportunities to say, we got 13. We're giving up 13 points. Can you give us more than 13?
Hmm.
If you do that, then we're going to win the football game. And there are some things that do worry me, and it's not a negative. I think it's very correctable. There were a couple of plays, if you look back at the Auburn game, where if Jackson Arnold finds Cam Coleman, he's in the end zone. There were a couple of explosive routes that we saw from one of the best wide receivers when it comes to route running in the SEC, where he got open and you had a quarterback that just couldn't hit him in stride. I don't know if you have to worry about that when it comes to Texas, because there aren't Cam Colemans on the sideline in Austin. There aren't. There are good receivers. There are very quality receivers. If you told me that we're talking about guys like Horatio Fields or maybe a Isaiah Horton level type player, yeah, Ryan Wingo I think could fit the bill. A Kevin Coleman type player, I think that you could maybe see it from DeAndre Moore, that kind of vicinity. But you're not going to find a Cam Coleman. That's the one weakness to where if you have a quarterback that's a little bit more accurate, he may be able to beat you over the top. But besides that, defensive line, pressure rates are through the roof. I mean, and you've done it against multiple Power 4 offensive lines at this point. You have more than just one guy coming off of the edge. Like our Mason Thomas missed the entire first half, and he still was able to get in the backfield and have a crushing sack and a safety against Jackson Arnold. I mean, like that's what we're talking about, is that it's not just a one-time dude that says if he wins his one-on-one battle against an offensive tackle, guess what's going to happen? They are going to get in the backfield. No, you got to worry about the interior pass rush. You got to worry about linebacker blitzes. You got to worry about what you see from the safety position kind of rolling down in the box. And they can force a lot of 3 and outs because of, even if they don't get the turnover, what they get is their hands on the football to create a pass deflection that turns a 3rd and 7 into a 4th and 7. And so that's an area to where Oklahoma has mastered defensively to, as long as the explosive play doesn't beat you, we're going to do everything else so right that we're going to give up 13 points. You get that 2 touchdown lead, we're good. Like, we feel really confident about where we are. The thing that I will say is that for the offensive side, and this is where, again, John Mateer's health is going to be a big time factor. If he can't throw the football, I mean, you can ask him to win with his legs, but also you got to be able to trust that you can run the football with outside players outside of him. And you saw a little bit of growth last game. You did. You definitely saw more from what you wanted in Jaden Ott and Torrey Blaylock. But neither one have been exceptional when it comes to Power 4 competition. So do you feel like that offensively you can win where you're not just finding one of your tight ends for a 7-yard gain, or Deion Burks is finding ways to get on open, or Isaiah Stenga is getting that one big yard explosive 40-yard pass downfield? Because that's going to be another area to where I think you're going to have to hope that Oklahoma plays that version of football, and they're also able to win the time possession to put more pressure on Texas to have to come out swinging. That's the part that worries me in this game, just a hair, because you hear the reports, and I think Pete Nakos has recently tweeted about it. His hand's been iffy when it comes to gripping the football. If you take away the element of him not being able to pass, I know Michael Hawkins is not as talented as a passer as John Mateer. But if you can't throw the football, you make your offense one-dimensional, and you're still tell a top 20 run defense, take away his legs, make them run it with the other 2 guys. That might be a problem, and that might lead to where you're going to get some 3 and outs. And all you need is for your offense to put up 14 points. Because Texas defense could say, we got 20 in us. We're going to give up 20 points. Can you get 21? Can you find the end zone 3 times? That's something that you got to wonder about too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too, you bring up Oklahoma's run game. That's obviously the biggest concern for Oklahoma fans. Like one of the areas that Oklahoma fans weren't really worried about. You get Jaden Ott in, you still have Xavier Robinson coming back, Javante Barnes is still there, and somehow this running back room has become completely stalemate. It feels like, where the true freshman Torrey Blaylock steps up big and ends up becoming the lead rusher for Oklahoma right now. Which was unexpected, but it's a good surprise. And then of course last week against Kent State, I know it's just Kent State, but you still saw why Oklahoma and why Jim Nagy specifically really likes Jaden Ott and brought him in, because you saw some of that shiftiness, some of that willing to just keep on driving the legs and keep on driving for yards no matter what. And so you see some good things out of him, and so hopefully that turns around his season. But you look at Oklahoma's run game. I think that's where I am most concerned for Oklahoma, because throughout the season, so far you've been able to get away with it. So far against Michigan, you were able to run John Mateer well enough, but you can't be doing that nonstop, especially with a hand injury that is going to be targeted. You can't expect him to carry the team all the time against Alabama, against Ole Miss, against Tennessee, against South Carolina, against Missouri, against LSU. You can't keep on doing that throughout the entirety of the season. And you bring up Texas's defense, which is one of the best in the nation as well, fifth nationally, and just allowing 12 points per game. This is a defense that likes to get turnovers. They're good at getting turnovers. They're able to do really well when they go out there and they try to do this very similar to Oklahoma and suffocate that quarterback. They've got great edge rushers being able to come in there, and so I think you watch this defense. If they're able to get back there, like you said, and slow down, whether it's John Mateer or Michael Hawkins, slow them down in the run game. Now what do you do? Because you are held to being one dimensional in one way or the other. Or like you said, if you're able to really press and force Oklahoma to pass the ball, force Oklahoma to try to run the ball where they're really weak at doing so, I think that's a concern. And you did bring up Cam Coleman as well, which for Oklahoma fans, they feel much more confident now because they had true freshman Cortland Guillory out there
Right.
on him, which did a really good job, I think, overall in that game, trying to cover one of the best, at least top 3 wide receivers in college football. So you have to give him some props there, but still, like you mentioned, that now you do have Eli Bowen back. He's back and healthy, so hopefully that's able to help some with that corner depth and all of that. So I think overall, I'm looking at Texas's offense, and I think the only way that they're able to succeed in this game is if they're able to find those chunk plays, because we mentioned it a moment ago, Oklahoma allowing only 17.4% on third downs. It's an offense for Texas that has to be able to get to third down and short if they're going to convert those. You have to be third down and 4, third down and 3, third down and 2. And you've got to be able to complete those. And then another area that we've seen Texas struggle at a lot, and not just this year, but I feel like in the past 2 or 3 seasons, is when they get down inside the 10-yard line. What are they going to do against this defense that is just going to suffocate you and not allow you to get that extra yard? And I think that's where Texas has to get those chunk plays if they're going to succeed against this Oklahoma defense.
So you missed out on one player for Texas. Malik Muhammad's availability for this game is going to be massive because if he's going to
Yeah.
be able to guard your number 1 receiver. And you got to like what you've at least seen from guys like Kobe Black and Grayson Littleton, who are pretty solid overall secondary options in the pass coverage game. Plus you got Mookie Taff on the back end. He's a very, very good safety. And you got to remember that they got some good linebacker play as well that can win in coverage against some tight ends like Jared Kanick. So that's going to be really beneficial, I think, in favor of Texas standpoint. I agree with you. The third down plays are going to be big. I don't think you can live in third down at all. And that includes 3rd and 2. I think that you got to be looking at 1st and 10 to get to 2nd and 6, 2nd and 6, convert with a 15-yard pass downfield. That is what you're going to have to do, I think, to beat Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's just been so deadly and lethal when it comes to their stunts, when it comes to their ability to pressure quarterbacks into making mistakes, to throw off their front foots. They've been so good in those departments that most teams don't get to even succeed on third down. Let alone, it doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 8. There have been several games, and there were several times in the Auburn game you could tell that they want to run the football. They couldn't do it. And then it was like a 3rd and 1. They had to pass because it was the only way they were going to win. And it was a low throw, or it was a rushed pass where it ended up really hurting Jackson Arnold's tempo, and they got out of a jam because of it. So Oklahoma does a good job of making a quarterback kind of feel that there are moments to where if you do not know who your go-to target is the second that ball hits your fingers, you're basically crap out of luck. I mean, that's really what it is. Arch's mobility is going to be a big time factor in this game, and I don't think it needs to be the only factor. Texas can't run the football to save its life. Honestly, and Josh, just think about this. look back at Steve Sarkisian's career. Like, if you go all the way to his time at Washington, the thing that he has had that really has made him so successful in USC, at Alabama, Texas, the ability to run the football. I mean, when he was at Washington, they had Bishop Sankey, and he was getting 1,000 yards per season. So the fact that right now they don't have a good feature running back is hurting them, but they got to find a way to get that ball moving. Like, for Sark's offense to really take flight and look the part that we're so accustomed to seeing, where they're averaging over 375 yards per contest and they're finding the end zone 31 points per game. They have an efficient ground game. That to me is where we have got to talk about. If you can't run the football, it really doesn't matter what you do inside the red zone, because if Arch is going to run it, but still, how much is that going to be for? If you're at the 10, does he gain 2? Does he force a couple of defenders to miss past the line of scrimmage? Like, where is that? Because the legs are dangerous and he can certainly win with them. But if you kind of take that out and you say, all right, cover 0 blitz, like, okay, we know our defensive backs are going to be able to cover his receivers. Great. Just take him out. Take out the one asset that makes him such a strong competitor that gets this game moving.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point with Texas's run game too, and trying to utilize Arch Manning. I think that's incredibly important for them, and I agree with you too. I think that is one of like their biggest needs, is for Arch Manning to be able to use his legs in this game. But then again, it's a defense that likes to be able to shut down that quarterback. I'll go over to. I saw this comment pop up. Bear, explain how Texas is going to score. And for those of you who don't know, Chris on SAC Unfiltered, Chris Phillips calls Cole Bear on the show. So, Bear, how does Texas score in this game?
Chunk plays. I mean, bad misassignments and coverage from Oklahoma, and deep shots down the field. I mean, you're talking about shots on shots on shots like you are a freshman and it's nickel night at Wednesday's Penny Pitcher place. Like, that is the level of shots that you're going to have to take.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's enough still, because of, again, like, I could say, like, and maybe Chicken brought this up because of, I think this is going to be an actual high scoring game, just because of, I think that for some reason, again, everything that we know about this game, throw logic out the window and watch Arch have a career day. Watch Ryan Wingo live up to all the expectations. And then John Mateer comes back and his hand's fully healthy. And here comes Giovanni Gibson fully healthy for the first time really this season. Then you get Deion Burks involved, and then you get Jaron Kanik involved. And then you see Torrey Blaylock be able to run it efficiently. Like, I just think crazy stuff's going to happen in this matchup because it's Red River, and we're supposed to see two teams that need only 20 points to win because their defenses are so great. Defense lets them down, offense delivers. But for Texas, again, it's not as if Texas is just like this run-of-the-mill ragtag program that doesn't have superstar talent. They have talent. I mean, like, there's a reason why when you look at the composite rankings going into the year, Texas was voted as a top 3 team on every vicinity. They went out and they fixed the tight end position by going and grabbing Jack Entries. They added in a very good X receiver in Emmett Mosley. They have a good speed threat in Ryan Wingo. They got a slot option that can win across the middle of the field and is good with route running in DeAndre Moore. They have good running backs on paper, but it hasn't all come together. So it's like, is this the game where it all just seems to click? Like the way that Florida last week was able to just turn things on and they say, you know what? We have a running back that we can trust in Jaden Baugh that we have criminally underused to begin the season. We're going to force feed him until literally they get so frustrated that we can push it down the field. And then we're going to take our shots with Vernell Brown and Dallas Wilson. That may be it. The problem is that I just don't trust Texas' offensive line. I mean, like, honestly, this is what the issue is. And it was kind of the way I felt last season about Oklahoma. Yeah. Oklahoma's offensive line was so dreadful that even when you thought wide receiver play, it's enough healthy to get the job done, you have 2 quarterbacks that maybe are going to be a little bit of a better fit. And then you talk about after leaving Seth Luttrell and he's fired, and you promote Joe John Finley as the play caller along with Kevin Johns was the other one, right? If I'm not mistaken.
What was that?
Who was the other play caller with Joe John Finley?
It was Seth Luttrell.
No. When he got fired.
Oh, yeah, it would have been Joe John Finley, and I guess I'm drawing a blank now.
Was it Kevin Johns?
It might have been Kevin Johns. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're right.
So like when you had that happen, it's like, okay, new offensive personnel, maybe things will go different because of it's no longer, Seth Luttrell running this program into the ground
Right.
offensively. And it's like, well, it didn't matter because you had no offensive line to protect either quarterback and they had no time to throw. So like that might be the issue for Texas in this game is that at some point, as much as we talk about the talent on the outside, and the thing that I've always preached is you want to be a championship caliber team, you better have the Jimmys and Joes up front. And if you do not have the 5 men blocking for you, and you do not have the 4 men that can get after those 5 guys and bully them, you don't stand a chance. And that's where Texas is.
Yeah, and it ultimately comes down to the line play, like you said. So for both these teams too, they're kind of similar. Where Oklahoma is they are decent. They're good enough at pass blocking, and I know a lot of fans they criticize this offensive line still because the run blocking has been quite atrocious. But pass blocking, they've been doing pretty well. And then mixed in with that, you've got mobile quarterbacks,
Right.
regardless of who's starting for Oklahoma, to be able to help out with that. And so there, Oklahoma's safe. Where Texas, it just seems like they've struggled both run blocking and pass blocking. And that's where I think the biggest matchup is going to come. Not really defensive line against offensive line, because I think in both cases, the defensive line works. I think the defensive lines are the biggest matchup. Which defensive line can get the most tackles for loss? Which defensive line can get the most sacks? Which defensive line can wreak the most havoc on the quarterback in the backfield and force him to throw bad passes? Which defensive line can get in there and really truly change this game? Which defensive line can get a turnover? I think there's so many things that come down to it with Oklahoma and Texas that really come down to their defensive lines. But Cole, give us your prediction here for this Red River shootout. How do you see this game going? Currently, Oklahoma favored 1.5, or sorry, Texas now favored 1.5. It started off 3.5 Texas, which was kind of shocking for most people, regardless of who is in at quarterback, and then shifted over to Oklahoma 1.5. Now back to Texas 1.5. Even after the news, I mean, I don't know. It might be updating here very soon with John Mateer most likely playing. But what is your prediction here in this Oklahoma Texas Red River shootout?
It should be a pick 'em at this point. Like, honestly, just because of knowing what Texas has offensively and what they don't have offensively. And then you throw in the fact that maybe you will have John Mateer even at 60%. I mean, I would just say you could make Oklahoma a favorite, and I would completely understand. Make it a pick 'em, and I think that's more fair. Something tells me that everything that we know about this matchup is just going to be thrown to the wayside. And we could talk about defense. We could talk about getting after a quarterback. We can talk about, 2 lines forcing their way into the backfield and making quarterbacks have mental mistakes. I, I just also see a scenario where Arch Manning, understanding that there are people out there that have already called for Matthew Caldwell to start. There have been people out there who have said it's time for him to transfer and for Steve Sarkisian to make a quarterback switch. You got to give them something to talk about that is actually very prominent and actually worth holding on to, that can be a change in the right direction. And he has a day that we're talking about for years, and that it's one that's very promising, and that this is where we look back and say, Arch figured it out. I just had this gut intuition. Texas also needs to be able to have this game because think about what's at stake. You go 9-3, there's no shot you go to the college football playoff with your record. Other teams are going to have to make a mistake to get you into that chatter to begin with because you're already not ranked. So the climbing back up with 3 losses is horrendous. But I also think in the same token, Brent Venables needs this win because if you win Red River 2 of the last 3 years, on top of that, you're able to get your team back into the conversation of 9+ wins, and you stay alive for another week when it comes to a top 10 roster and feel like that you're trending in the right direction to be a college football playoff threat. Everything is now proven that the moves that you made this offseason, the investments that you bought into, hiring a Ben Arbuckle, bringing in John Mateer, the moves at the wide receiver position, instead of going after these high profile guys, you go get dudes who are kind of flying under the radar. Like nobody talked about Satanga when he joined Oklahoma. He was
Yeah,
just a dude with speed from Arkansas. Nobody talked about Giovanni Gibson from Arkansas Pine Bluff, and he has that opportunity to have a big time day. Like nobody talks about these guys, and they end up meeting all the expectations. And also, Zach Alley leaves for West Virginia, and BV says, "Well, if I'm going to go down with the ship, I'm going to go down with my defense, and my defense is the reason we're winning football games." I think it just crosses off a lot of boxes for boosters and anybody who had doubts about Brent Venables being the guy. That once again, he's doing everything that you're asking, and he is delivering on his end of the bargain. And I think that as much as Texas needs this win, Oklahoma's the better team. And Oklahoma's the one that's going to win. And Oklahoma's the one that's going to be able to hang, I think, a few more points. And I think that you will see a moment where they look legit as a team that, so long as they do not put themselves in harm's way with the Ole Miss game and the LSU game and the Missouri game, they are going to be in the college football playoff. And they're have an opportunity to be a threat to go to the SEC title game in year 2. And what's really interesting is that we talk about Texas A&M and Missouri, and when they joined the SEC, everyone focused in on Texas A&M because if it's Texas A&M, and it was, hey, here's Missouri. Yeah, I mean, cool. We're gonna welcome you. I guess you're fine. And then Missouri's been to 2 SEC title games, and Texas A&M is still trying to get past 8-4. That's just the norm. Maybe this is the moment where Oklahoma gets to say, hey, you went year 1 and you lost. We went year 2 and we won, and we got a first round bye, and we're in the college football playoff. And now all these recruits that you're talking about, they want to come play for us now. And we landed a couple 5-stars because we beat you. And that's what I think happens. I think Oklahoma outlasts Texas. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 28-24, 31-27. I think that you will see a lot of points be scored. I actually think that the over is going to hit. But I think Oklahoma is the more superior team and they win this football game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm taking the under just because I believe in both these defenses. And I'll get to my prediction later. But yeah, I think I'm hitting the under, but I would not be surprised if it's just, like you said, a crazy 34-28 kind of game, like where it's just like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, how are both these defenses letting up this many points? But yeah, and to think of Oklahoma's rest of their season too. If you are able to close out this game and you're able to win and go 6-0, you now have 6 wins. And I think most people agree if Oklahoma goes 9-3, obviously with those 3 losses being respectable losses, good losses, we'll say, and if that's the case, then I think Oklahoma makes the college football playoff. So you have to go 3-3 and have a chance at the college football playoff in your last 6 games against South Carolina, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, Alabama, and Tennessee. You have to win 3 of those games, 3 of those 6. If you can win 4 of those 6, you have a 10-win season. I don't think it's beyond the realm of imagination to believe that Oklahoma can secure a 10-win season by winning in this Red River Shootout.
Oklahoma, I think, will get to 10 wins if they win on Saturday.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know where those losses come. I think that you are playing against an Alabama team that right now is humming offensively and maybe has yet to reach its full potential. Missouri being at home, even with how good Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts have looked, I think is very beneficial for you. I don't know what to make of LSU just yet. Honestly, for me, the South Carolina game is so intriguing, and it'll be interesting to see what South Carolina looks like because that feels like Kansas circa 2023.
Yeah.
Where you got way too big for your britches, you're celebrating too soon, and you take your foot off the gas just a little bit, and that's the moment where the Norris Sellers chooses violence. Like, I could see that scenario. But Ole Miss, again, that's one to where you get to welcome them into your backyard. So that's, I think, a massive win in your favor. LSU, you get to welcome into your backyard. I think that if you win, it's 10-2. I will say, even with a loss, 9-3, depending on if Texas holds up its end of the bargain, there'd have to be chaos to where, and this is where the committee is going to really be able to show if it truly does warrant quality losses and signature wins. If they warrant that, I see a scenario where Oklahoma will have the resume to back up a 9-3 team going to the college football playoff. But also, if they don't win this game and they still finish 9-3, if they do win this game and they still finish 9-3, again, it warrants with the resume. That's where we are. I see both happening, but I do think that 10-2 is on the horizon with a win.
Yeah, and I think that's very likely. But anyways, Cole, I appreciate you joining tonight. I'll let you hop off and enjoy the rest of your night. Let my listeners know where they can find your amazing content.
SEC Unfiltered, we got a live stream tomorrow. We will be doing live streams throughout the entire weekend out in Dallas. If you're out in Dallas, I will be at the game. Chris Phillips will be at the game. Please come say hello. Come say what's up. Let us know what you guys are doing. I love to meet fans. I love to meet people that indulge in our content and truly embrace the love of college football. And this, to me, is my favorite college football rivalry. So make sure that you give me a follow on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson. Make sure you follow us at SEC Unfiltered. We're pushing towards 30,000 subscribers. And if you're in Dallas, you see me, say hello and boom Sooner, because I think the Sooners are winning this one.
All right, Cole. I appreciate you jumping on. Everybody go check him out. Check out SEC Unfiltered. Cole, you have a great rest of your night.
Take care, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, everybody. That is Cole Thompson. We will get to our predictions here and all of that fun stuff. I will jump over to the live chat here in just a second. But first, a quick word and a quick look over at our friends with Underdog Fantasy. All right, last week with Underdog Fantasy, we were able to secure 2 out of 3. I was hoping that Deion Burks would have gotten to the end zone. We got Michael Hawkins higher than 0.5 rushing touchdowns because that was just too easy. Michael Hawkins lower than 270.5. Like I said, I didn't think that Oklahoma was going to throw a whole lot out there. I just thought that 270.5 was too easy. We were trying to get Deion Burks into the end zone, and we even talked about it. Do we want to go Deion Burks or Isaiah Satania? Which one are we going? And on air, I picked Deion Burks. And so we've got to keep that on the record. So didn't end up hitting that 3 for 3 last week, but still, you got 2 for 3. You can also flex it so that way if one of your picks doesn't hit, then it all works out just fine. Click that link down in the description below. Sign up today. Use the code VOCFBOU to play and get $5 or play $5 to get $50 in bonus funds. You must be 21 or older to play. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But we're going to go through our picks for this week. It was a little hard because so far they didn't have hardly anybody for Oklahoma on there. So I went through and I was looking. It has Arch Manning higher or lower than higher or lower than half of an interception. So basically, are you picking that he's going to have 0 or 1 interception or more? And I'm going to say he has more than 0 interceptions. I think he throws an interception in this game. I think Oklahoma, they kind of got that turnover bug finally into their system. They got that taste of blood in their mouth, getting those turnovers. So I think Oklahoma gets an interception in this game. I think they intercept Arch Manning. I think he's going to throw it into coverage a couple of times, and I think this is going to be a big game for Oklahoma, especially against Arch Manning. I just don't see him performing well against this Oklahoma defense. Brent Venables is going to throw everything at him and keep him guessing, keep him kind of freaking out. So very interesting to see there. I've got Isaiah Satania. We're going to believe in him this week. Higher than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. And then Torrey Blaylock higher than 0.5 rushing, receiving touchdowns. So we're going to expect Satania and Blaylock. Excuse me, sorry. I choked on my coffee earlier and haven't been able to recover since. So Satania and Blaylock to either score a rushing or receiving touchdown, either one of those, and Arch Manning to throw an interception. It's as easy as just making a couple of picks. You make two plus picks, and the more you pick, the more you can kind of multiply how much you can win over on Underdog Fantasy. So click that link down in the description below, and then use the code VOCFBOU to play $5, get $50. Use that code when you sign up today. You must be 21 or older. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's get back to it, and we'll get into the live chat. Alrighty, let's see. You guys have been extremely active in the live chat. If you want your live chat read 100% of the time, of course, donations and super chats are the way to go. I'll go through the ones that we were starring as we were going through. We've got Jesse Browning. Texas lost to Florida, cooling their chances at the playoffs, and this Saturday, OU will ice it. Yeah, if Oklahoma, and he says boomer, can't leave that part out, Sooner. If Oklahoma wins this game, I agree with you. I think that ices Texas's chances to win, and that's why I believe that this is more important for Texas. This game is more important for Texas this season, and we'll get to that again here later on. I think that this game is more important for Texas's season because if Oklahoma loses, we can speculate and say that they're not going to reach that 9-3, 10-2, but Oklahoma could turn things around if they were to lose and still only go out 11-1, 10-2, possibly. So I think it's still very important, and you can speculate and say that this is just as important, if not more important, for Oklahoma for many other reasons. But I'm sure we'll get to that. Thunder OU Sooner says, well, sports media doesn't think Oklahoma can win because of John Mateer is their offense. Josh Pate thinks Texas needs this win more than Brent Venables. OU underdog, the way the media is going at it. Yeah, and I'm actually very shocked at that too. I thought for sure there's some guys I saw J.D. Pickell, I guess, picked against Oklahoma. Josh Pate picked against Oklahoma. I know Will Compton picked against Oklahoma. I've been seeing a lot of media people picking against Oklahoma, thinking that Texas is going to turn things around. And I was shocked to see the amount of people picking against Oklahoma and media people picking against Oklahoma. So quite shocked at the amount of people picking against Oklahoma. But I'm not shocked that people are picking against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's on this high road right now. You know, they're rolling, but Texas is coming off. I think Texas coming off the loss is why people think that Texas has such a better chance to win this game. And I do agree. I think that because of the loss against Florida, it gives Texas more of a fire going into this game. And so I can see that point quite a bit. You know, the fact that maybe Texas ends up winning this game because they really need it. Because without a win here, their season is over. Their season is basically out the window. Obviously, not completely, because you're only 2 losses in conference at that point. And you could really turn things around, I suppose. But you really need this game if you're Texas. Lori says it's shootout. It's Red River shootout. Thunder OU Sooner also says Red River shootout. You know, I think Red River Rivalry, it's that little tongue twister, kind of fun to say. I like both of them. Either one of those are the two that I will allow, I will accept. Those are both welcome in my house. Corrections 101 says OU wins 27-13. I like that prediction. I will get to my prediction here in just a moment, talk a little bit more about where I'm feeling about my prediction as well. And for those of you who haven't paid attention to this show or haven't really tuned in, the predictions that I've been getting so far, I don't know. So I have to really zone in and feel the game. I have to feel the energy and just imagine that I'm watching the game on Saturday. And sometimes I dream of the game. And so far we've been dead on, spot on. We were off week 1, okay? We were off, but we didn't know what was going to happen with Oklahoma. We didn't know anything about this team. We were off week 1. Week 2, though, against Michigan, spot on. Got the score 100% correct. Should have put some money on that. Didn't. Lost out on an opportunity. Week 3, let's see, what were we after Michigan? Temple, I think a couple points off against Temple. Only like 1 point off against Auburn. And then 2 points off, 3 points off, something like that. 4 points off last week against Kent State. We have been on fire in the predictions, so stay tuned. I'll give my prediction here in just a little bit. We're going to get through some of these chats real quick. Thunder OU Sooner says Oklahoma does not need Texas at the time they play outside of the time that they play them. Oklahoma's in the SEC. Needing Texas to win until they play Oklahoma is a thing of the past. Yeah, you're right. I don't think Oklahoma needs Texas to win, especially with this kind of a schedule. It would have been a lot nicer, though. I think Oklahoma wants them. I wanted them to win last week because it's really sweet. I enjoyed watching Texas lose. I'm not going to say that wasn't on my mind, but I do like when this Red River shootout is a top matchup. Like if you have, like right now, it's more if Oklahoma loses now. It hurts more if Oklahoma loses because it's an unranked Texas. I don't like that. I don't like the opportunity because Texas is a good team. And Oklahoma, there's a possibility that Texas wins this game. So if Oklahoma were to lose this game against an unranked Texas, that hurts way more than if they're ranked and you want them to be good. And then if you win, it does more because they're ranked. And if you're the team that pushes them out of the rankings, that's one thing. But yeah, it's a bummer to see that they're not ranked. But I do agree with you. You don't really need Texas anymore because you're in the SEC. Like you said, you've got a hefty schedule ahead of you. Some ranked opponents up here in the future as well. Chris Parrish, what's up in the chat? He says, if Mateer can't go, I really hope Hawkins run triple option, either pitch it to the back, throw out to a wide receiver, or run it. I'd like to bleed the clock as much as possible. I'm assuming now with all the probable and all this, John Mateer is playing. I don't know. Maybe Hawkins still plays some. I don't know. But John Mateer is playing. I think that's very evident at this point. And they're trying to hide it, keep it close to their vest, but they can only do so much. I do agree with you, though, in the aspect that you have to bleed the clock. I think time of possession wins this game. This is one of those games that time of possession wins the game. You keep the other offense without the opportunity to do anything and rest your defense as much as possible. Force their defense to be worn down. I think time of possession wins this game. This is one of those games that is really necessary to me. I think very, very necessary that you have to win the overall time of possession there. So I do like that take quite a bit. Jimmy Satterfield throwing his prediction out there, 24-13, another one that I really like. I like your guys' predictions. Very similar to what I'm going to be picking, I'm sure. So we'll get to that here in just a moment. Corrections 101 says, yeah, Mateer just got upgraded to probable. We talked about that earlier. I just forgot to unstar that one. Yeah, him showing up as probable, and I see a few others in the chat mentioning that as well. That's big. It means Oklahoma's going to have him in the game, most likely. So good news, very good news. And if that's the case, then we finally erect the statue of Dr. Stephen Shin and promote him as the athletics director and also director over medical and all of that fun stuff, making sure that he makes sure that none of our players go through what Oklahoma went through in 2024 ever again. Anyways, it's a payback game for the Sooners, Jimmy says. 100%. I think that's the biggest part about this game and this game this year. And it's frustrating because you were able to redeem yourself against Texas whenever they shut Oklahoma out back in 2022 and 2023. You bounce back and just punch them in the mouth. But then you turn around in 2024 and you just let them do it again. You're not able to get into the end zone. Brent Venables really needs this, and I do agree with you guys that are saying that. Brent Venables needs this game for that reason. And Thunder OU Sooner, he says the same thing. He says it's more important for Oklahoma to beat Texas because Brent Venables got blown out 2 out of 3 years against Texas. And that's why I think Oklahoma needs it more overall. I think they need the win. I think Brent Venables needs this win overall more, but I think Texas needs the win more this season just for their record's sake because they've blown it. You can't lose against Florida, especially a bad Florida team. When Florida was not good this year, you can't lose to them. And that's what they did. So they really put their backs up against the wall where they have no room for error for the rest of the season, really. Got to get back on it. Corrections 101 says, I'm getting alerts showing Texas podcast firing up, freaking out over John Mateer playing. Good. Let's tune into him. Let's tune into him right now. No, you can stay here for now because we're going to talk about Oklahoma because that's what matters the most. Thunder OU Sooner says, I'm not watching any Texas YouTube podcasts until Oklahoma wins. If they win on Saturday, I'll be watching them. Yeah, I'm all for the chirping after the win, but I say chirp a little bit before the win. But you have to be smart in how you do it. You can't chirp with such confidence that there's no way that Oklahoma loses. You've got to be strategic in how you're chirping that team. You got to do things that they can't just clip back on you after the game. And it's hard, but you've got to be strategic with it. I can give some lessons if you're needing them. Jimmy Satterfield says the Sooners' defensive line will feast on Texas offensive line Saturday with multiple sacks and tackles behind the line of scrimmage. I am banking on it. Jimmy. I think this Texas offensive line is worse than Oklahoma's offensive line, which Oklahoma fans know that is a cut down. And this is an incredible defensive line that has such depth. Everyone's ready to go. Everyone's healthy. Jaden Jackson back in. Grayson Halton doing his thing. You got David Stone in there doing his thing. Dominic Williams ready to roll. And then you've got your edge guys with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know where that even came from. Marvin Jones Jr. And then you got Taylor Wine and R. Mason Thomas. I mean, this defensive line is just atrocious. Not atrocious. The offensive line is atrocious for Texas, and this defensive line is nasty, and they are ready to get back there, getting a lot of tackles. I mean, they are hoping for big time sacks in this game, especially because hearing that half of the stadium roaring when you get that big sack is going to be crucial. And momentum means the most in this game because you have to carry it on. It means a lot in every game, but it means the most in this type of game. Very big. Lori says, hey, Jimmy, do you think the guy on the right kind of looks like Brandon? Because I think he does. What do you think? And what's funny is Brandon and I were Brandon was supposed to be on the show on Tuesday. I just couldn't make it on Tuesday. And so that is funny. Yeah, I can see the resemblance just because they both have kind of, like the goatee. They both wear the hat backwards. I don't think that's a cut down at all, too. I love Brandon. Love Brandon. But anyways, yeah, I'm sure we'll get Brandon on the show here upcoming soon too. We were talking this week, and I was like, hey, jump on this week. Let's talk OU Texas. He was going to on Tuesday. I was out of town, couldn't make it. So that's on me. Thunder OU Sooner says, how is John Mateer going to protect his hand from getting hit? You know the Texas Longhorns is going to try to hurt John's hand. That is a really good point to bring up because he is going to have to protect that hand some. And you can call it dirty all you want. It's just called the game of football. Texas is going to be aiming to hit that hand. When you know that a player is battling through an injury, you are going to aim to bother that injury. You're not trying to re-break it necessarily, but you're trying to make it hurt. You're trying to make him scared of getting it hit. And so, yeah, it's something that you're going to have to be careful of. I think you're going to see a lot of tucking it into the left hand and tucking it close to your body, not holding it out, making sure to tuck it in close. Maybe tucking that underneath somehow. I don't know what. I'm sure that's stuff that they are working on a lot with John throughout this week in practice. He's been practicing a lot in the drills, one-on-ones, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the drills with the ones, but he hasn't been practicing too much with the entire team practices and stuff with any kind of contact, anything like that for the most part. He's been completely out of it. So take that for what you will, but he is going to have to protect that hand because most likely he's playing. At this point, I think we can safely probably put a bet on it that he's playing. How much? I don't know. How careful are they going to be? I don't know. And to that point too, Oklahoma's coaching staff, their medical staff, and John Mateer himself, they're not going to have John Mateer playing this Saturday if he's not 100%. To whatever 100% means in college football, because nobody is ever 100%. They're not going to put him out there in a situation where it's really risky. They're not going to do that, especially after what Oklahoma went through last season. So all of the speculation that he's going out there before he's ready or that he still needs time to rest before going out there, it's all kind of nonsense. It really is. It's nonsense because he would not be going out there if he wasn't 100% ready. So I just have to throw that out there. It's not too early. I don't think that's the case. Jimmy says, I wonder who's going to be covering Wingo. Brian Wingo is a tough wide receiver. I would imagine you probably put Gentry Williams or Eli Bowen out there on him. Cortland Guillory might be able to help out here and there, but I think after seeing him with Cam Coleman, I don't know, maybe you put him in there against Cam Coleman just because you want to see him fired up and ready to go against another top wide receiver to shut him down. But ultimately, I think, yeah, you put your best guy on their best guy. I think that's what you got to do. I think that's just the smart thing to do is you put your best guy on there, and I think that's Eli Bowen or Gentry Williams. Chicken 1515 says, do not forget the last 32 times Oklahoma wears white at the Red River Shootout. Oklahoma 31 wins, 1 loss, 1 tie. We wearing whites. I want to look that stat up. I like that stat. If you were correct, I like that stat. Thank you for bringing that up. I will look into that. I don't know how much I really buy into the speculation or the superstition because I'm not superstitious. I am a little stitious, but I'm very, very curious to see. So I like that stat if it's true. And then he also says Jaden Knott gets 125 plus total yards. Historically, Oklahoma has a running back go off against Texas to kickstart their career. You are not wrong. That is a factual statistic. I don't know if he'll get 125 plus yards, but Oklahoma statistically does have a running back just go crazy in this game and may not get like the crazy 125 plus yard game or anything, but just get those big chunk plays when it means the most. Maybe only come away with 80 yards in this game, but you look at it and it was like those 80 yards were without those, Oklahoma doesn't win. And I could see that being the case for sure. So I do like that you bring that up because that is a very good point to mention here in this game. Let's see here, diving through Bevo's Bodyguard in here. What is up, our fellow Texas fan in here saying Golden Hat staying in Austin. We will see. We will see. And you and I, we have to settle this. We have to settle this whole debate. If Oklahoma wins, you just have to jump on the post game show and just say congratulations. That's all. Just jump on real quick and say congratulations, because that's hard to say. I know it. And if Texas wins, I will say it back to you. So if I see you in the chat post game show, then I will do that. Otherwise, you can jump in whatever you want. You can jump in on the Sunday show as well. We'll be live on Sunday. Go back to Bevo real quick. He says, "OU losing to Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, and Tennessee. You are delusional. You have nothing to back that up. You have nothing." And then also, Mateer, we're going to go through all of these. Mateer, the most overrated player in college football, and then he goes on to say, "I hope he plays." You were in for a rude awakening, because this man fought through a broken bone in his thumb and his throwing hand through 3 quarters against a very tough Auburn defense. Bevo is a comedian. I think the correct word, not comedian, although maybe a type of comedian, I think the correct phrase would be Bevo is a clown, because he's just a straight-up clown. Anyways, Quit Crying You Lost says Texas is losing to OU and about 4 others on their schedule. I don't think Texas loses to 4 others on their schedule, although why not? Why not? Let's do it. James in here says OU would beat OU would beat Texas with second string. He also says it's going to be a blowout. Can't wait. I really hope so. Really hope so. Quit Crying You Lost. Going back to him, he says Ohio State loses to Michigan every year, then wins the title. So no, Brent would not be screwed. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. I don't think he's screwed. I just think he really wants this. It's bad for Oklahoma, and it's bad for Brent Venables to have it on his record that he loses to Texas every year, because that is the most important, the most meaningful game. Maybe not the most important, the most meaningful game during the season is your rivals. That's why they call them rivalries. And especially this one being as special as it is, you do really want to be able to get that win over your rival. Excuse me. 91 Nate says, if OU isn't that good, then Texas is garbage. And I won't pronunciate that the way that you want to put that out there on the screen. But I like the banter, guys. Keep it up. Chuck coming in the chat. What is up, Chuck? He says, we better check and make sure Mateer doesn't have a bet on this game. So many podcasts supporting it. Who knows? He may have a bet on this game, and I'd bet that his is moneyline Oklahoma, because that's the best bang for your buck. And he probably took it back whenever Oklahoma was plus 200, like some of us did when we knew that this was a smart one for you to be taken. Jesse Browning, OU forces Sark to finally bench Arch. That is actually not even a hot take. If Oklahoma forces Arch to throw like 2 or 3 interceptions, maybe not all interceptions, just 2 or 3 turnovers, like in the first half or something, kind of similar to what you saw with Spencer Rattler being benched in the first half against Texas. What was that, back in 2022? Or that was back before that, wasn't it? 2021? Is that the right year? 2021, 2022? If it was similar to that, does Texas bench Arch? That's kind of a weird thing to say, bench Arch. Just weird coming out. Yeah, I think that's not a hot take at all. I could see that happening. If you're able to just get back there and just pummel him all first half, and he's not able to get anything going, do you bench him just to get something going? There's already some rumblings kind of going on. Going back to Jesse real quick, he says, I think you always come up with some really good comments too, so I appreciate you putting some of this down in the chat. He says, I think it comes down to big plays. I think both offenses will struggle, but the team who makes one more explosive clutch play wins the game. I agree with you. I think it comes down to who's able to get past that hump and make the bigger play. Honestly, who's able to score more than 25, I think wins the game. That's how I feel. I think that's a big one. If it's up to John, he's playing. Don't think otherwise. Yeah, and I also think John is smart. He wants to play no matter what, and he will do whatever it takes to play. I don't think he's going out there if he feels like, man, I'm scared that it's going to refracture. So the surgery that he had done in his throwing hand, I believe down in this area, might have been on top, is where they made the incision and everything. But in this area, they went in and where there was a fracture, to my knowledge, not a break, they fused that bone together. So basically, there is no more break. Now, it takes time for it to still heal. He's had, what, 17 days by Saturday? I think that's right. 17 days to heal. And very minimal, not a whole lot. Very minimal action. He's been doing a lot of stress ball grip exercises, getting that grip going. They've been doing a lot of strategic exercises to help him get better too. So, yeah. Let's see here. Going through real quick because I don't have any more starred. All right, Jimmy Satterfield. Who will be the lead rusher for the Sooners? Ott, Blaylock, or Mateer? I want to say Jaden Ott. I want to say that he comes out and has a big game, like we mentioned a moment ago. I want to say Ott. We can't sit here and say that Ott is going to be the lead rusher when he hasn't done anything all season. If Mateer's in there, I think Mateer is probably your easy pick. If we're talking just running backs, I think Blaylock is going to be your leading rusher all season. We talked about, go back to the preseason when we were talking about these running backs. We were talking about obviously Jaden Ott, hoping to see him healthy and get back in there and have a big season. That hasn't been the case, but we were talking here on this show, and I know there's been a few others talking about Torrey Blaylock as well, so I'm not taking full credit as if I just learned about Torrey Blaylock on my own, but I had seen some of Torrey Blaylock's individual workouts that were posted and stuff like that. I've seen Torrey Blaylock in practice and some of the things that he was doing in practice, some of the things that were being said about him in practice, and the fact that he got the opportunity in practice, I knew that there was something special about him when we talked about it. I didn't think he'd be a first-year starter. I didn't think he'd come out here and take the starting position with some of the injuries and all that had gone on. He kind of had an opportunity to take that, and he took that opportunity. He took that opportunity for himself, and so huge shout-out to him for what he was able to do. Let's see here. Jesse Browning, how much of an impact do you think Giovanni Gibson will have? I think a huge impact. I think he has the potential to be leading receiver in this game because there's not a whole lot of tape on him. He is going to most likely be getting his first start of the season. Keontez Lewis is expected to be playing, just probably won't get a whole lot of reps. He is expected to be playing, but you're going to have Giovanni Gibson in there most likely starting in that X position, I believe it is, that he's playing. So, yeah, I think he can be a huge receiver. Let's make a prediction right around that 70 to 75 yard mark. I think he could be big. And I think it's going to be spread around. When you've got Isaiah Satania, Jaron Kanik, Dion Burks, Giovanni Gibson, Keontez Lewis jumping in where he can, get Ivan Carrion out there on the field, man, because that dude is just a big target. We were talking about that after the game. Like, when I saw him in person, I was like, holy cow, I thought that was a tight end out there. We need to move him into tight end. I don't know if that's a good take or not, but I'm excited. Chicken1515, he says, what I saw in the Kent State game was Ott played like an experienced, seasoned running back. Yeah, and he really didn't have a whole lot to work with either, and he made the most of it. He had the one mistake where his knee went down in the backfield. That was a little confusing in the stadium because the intercom system was breaking out. You couldn't hear what the refs were saying. They go back and review it, get it all turned over and everything. But without that, he had a really good game. I saw a lot of really good things out there. Thunder OU Sooner says Oklahoma's going to stop Arch from playing hurry-up ball in the fourth quarter where he dinks and dunks. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to put a lot of pressure on him, especially because I saw you guys talking about that in the chat too. He is really good. This Texas offense is really good in the fourth quarter when it's too late to get down there and try to do something really late. But I think that's important to get back there and make sure to slow them down. Chuck Carney, going back to Chuck, he says, John, do you think if Mateer doesn't play, that the way OU handled this could put more pressure on Hawkins now that everyone thought Mateer would play and not Hawkins, now Hawkins is. So basically, sorry, I was having a hard time reading it because I had something else pop up on the screen. Okay. So if Mateer doesn't play, do we think that it's too much pressure on Hawkins? No, because I think in the building, they're treating this the right way. And Hawkins has been taking a lot of the team practice reps with ones. He's been still kind of being treated as the starter for the most part in practices with the ones. So he's been having a lot of those. I don't think it puts a lot of pressure on him. I think fans will be disappointed. Oklahoma fans will be disappointed if John Mateer doesn't go out there and make this and get the start. But I think, based on the reaction against Kent State, if you were there in person, it was a huge roar when they saw Michael Hawkins pop up as the starting quarterback. Everyone knew that he was going to be starting, but it was just huge support for him. And even though a lot of people were still talking about John Mateer all week leading up to that Kent State game about how long is it going to take for John Mateer to get healed up? Is he going to be ready by Texas? Is he not going to be ready by Texas? Is Oklahoma even any good? Should they even be ranked in the top 25 since they don't have John Mateer? Yes, some people were saying that. So, with all the talk still about John Mateer, even in those weeks, I think very similar pressure was on him. And you know what? I think he had a lot of pressure and had to work off some of that pressure in that Kent State game. And I don't think he performed well, but he didn't perform bad in that Kent State game. I think he was manageable. I think you found some things that you could work on. And as long as they went through the proper procedures and proper drills to work on certain things, maybe like that sidearm mechanic and that we were talking about post game, I think he'll do just fine. I think he is ready for this moment. So if Hawkins plays, I still feel confident. My prediction that I'm giving is predicting as if Hawkins were to play. So I'll give that here in just a second. Thunder OU Sooner says, OU going to have to keep Hawkins red shirt and in case John Mateer has to come back next year so Hawkins won't transfer out. I agree. You want to save his red shirt, not even necessarily for that, but I think you want to save his red shirt for him too. Because even if he were to transfer out, I just think that's doing him right. I thought it kind of felt to me like they were doing Jackson Arnold wrong by having him come back in that South Carolina game, burning his red shirt where he could have used that. And he might be able to get that back, that year of eligibility back through technicalities. But I think just by doing him right, I would agree with that. Let's see here. Will the Texas fans boo Arch if he throws an interception? Yes. Texas fans are very, from what I've seen anyways, they are very frustrated with how Arch is performing right now. They're very frustrated with Sarkisian. I saw all the Texas media freaking out. It's not all of them, but I just feel like there is an abundance of Texas media that is just, they are not professional to me. I really don't think they're professional. I try to be professional on this podcast. And we're not even really an official podcast or anything. I don't think I would consider us official podcast because this podcast is not credentialed or anything. So, and so I think that being said, I don't know. I don't feel like there's credentialed media outlets for Texas that are just extremely unprofessional to me. And I'm not trying to cut them down or anything. I look at them and I just think what are you guys doing? Because if I'm an Oklahoma fan, there are certain Oklahoma media outlets that some of them not even professional outlets. Some of them are just like this one, kind of an individual ran and non-credentialed. But there's certain outlets that I see with Oklahoma that I'm like, man, what you're doing is just not professional to me. There's some that are trying to act as if they're professional. And I won't throw out names, but some that try to act professional that are just not at all. And so anyways, I think when you act professional, so I think you guys, for those of you who are regulars to this podcast, I think why you're drawn in, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we try to do here is we're not negative on the team, but we will be critical. And I think that's important, especially when you're trying to be in good relationships with the university. Because if the university were to see our content, they would say, okay, fair points. Oklahoma's offensive line is bad at run blocking, for example. Fair point. They haven't been good statistically. Now, to sit there and call out and say, Michael Hawkins Jr., had a bad pass and he sucks. Calling out Brent Venables and saying Brent Venables needs to be fired after this season. That kind of stuff is really unprofessional and it's negative on the season. Now you can sit here and be critical and say, I think you've got to worry if Brent Venables doesn't win more than 7 games, 8 games, then he's on the hot seat and he might be fired. You can be critical, but I think you just can't be negative. And I don't think it's fun to watch negative podcasts that get on here and after a game just sitting here and cussing and flipping out. I just don't think it's professional. I see that a lot from not just Texas, but I see that a lot from credentialed, quote unquote, professional media outlets from other teams. I see that a lot, and I think Oklahoma does pretty well with that overall. I think the guys over at Scoop and obviously my guys over at OU Insider, Parker and Brandon, they do a great job. Jesse and all of them, they do a great job. I don't know who some other ones that we can throw out there and throw out their names. I think Jay, he's my man. He's really good about being critical but not negative. I think he's also a sunshine pumper, and I love it. He's the fun type of sunshine pumper for sure too. I think that's why so many people love him with Locked On and Unfair Sports. But I think he's been a great addition for Locked On too. But anyways, let's get into predictions, guys. Throw your predictions down in the chat real quick, and we'll get to those as well. But I'm going to kind of go through this real quick. First of all, Oklahoma 1.5-point underdogs. Basically a pick 'em, not quite. I will be honest. I picked Oklahoma earlier on in the season when they were still an underdog. When it came out and they were still a sizable underdog, and I feel good about that still to this point, because we've talked about this a lot so far this season, where this defense is the identity of this. What is the line there on the screen now? Is it different now? Did it change since I'm talking there, Jonathan? Sorry, you don't need to apologize at all for cutting me off, but you distracted me there with that. So did the line change again? Because this line was put up literally 30 seconds before we went live. So far I'm still seeing 45.5. So it looks like 45.5 Texas. Okay, so on FanDuel. Okay, so I'm going based off of this is a collaborative of all Vegas sites. So so far right now, like the collaborative of all of them, I do think that Oklahoma will be 1.5 by the end of tonight. By tomorrow morning, I think it will switch back over. But just to make you happy though, I will just have it removed altogether. How about that? No, but I appreciate you throwing that in there. So the one that I have on there is just a collaborative of Vegas in general. So it kind of takes an average. So it takes all the major sports books and averages them. Right now, Texas still 1.5 based on what I just looked up. So right now, Texas 1.5-point favorite, and I looked into it too. There's simulation models that go out there currently giving Texas 61% chance to win, largely because of the quarterback uncertainty. I think that changes with more certainty leaning towards John Mateer. Some still don't even like Oklahoma with John Mateer because of his injury. Again, I don't think John Mateer goes out there if he's not 100% ready to play. So I do think that there's a lot of that. I think that overall, the money has been leaning towards Oklahoma. The money has been like overwhelmingly leaning towards Oklahoma. And I'm talking 80+% of the money has been thrown in on Oklahoma on sports books. I think when you look at Texas and their offensive woes, their struggles on offense, when you see that their offensive line has struggled and Oklahoma's main point, their main thing on defense, because obviously Oklahoma's main identity is defense. Their main identity on that defense is their defensive line. That main identity on defense is getting sacks, getting tackles for a loss, getting in the backfield, creating havoc, being able to get that pressure with only a 4, maybe 5-man rush, not having to stack the box to stop the run. That's what Oklahoma thrives on, and Texas is struggling in that department. And they haven't just struggled against Florida. They struggled against Ohio State. They struggled, maybe not necessarily struggled, but they didn't do well against San Jose State. They didn't do well. Was it UTEP? I'm drawing a blank on what their other game was. I think UTEP, that was the right one. But whatever. I look at this Texas team and they have not performed well all season long, and it's been that offensive line. And so I think I look at Oklahoma and I look at what their strength is, and I recognize that this strength is that defense. And I think about the strength being on the defensive side of the ball. I think Oklahoma wins this game, and I feel really good about their chances to win solid, and in a way that was very similar to that Michigan game. Go back to the Michigan game with me and think back to that. Was there ever a moment in your mind as an Oklahoma fan that you felt like Oklahoma was going to blow the game? Now, I think there was one moment where we were like, oh crap, don't let this start, when Justice Haynes started off the first play of the second half with a 75-yard touchdown. But right after that, Oklahoma's defense responds. They stop them. They slow them down. They do not let them get down there and score to get out ahead. And I don't feel like there was ever a moment where you felt like Oklahoma didn't have control of that game. Overall, the momentum shifted for a moment, but went right back to Oklahoma. So I think the same thing happens in this game, where Oklahoma may not be leading by 20 points or anything, but you feel very confident in their play. The offense is grinding the clock, maybe not scoring all the time, but grinding the clock, able to run that clock down and wind it down, and able to put up points as often as they need to, not as often as they would like, but as often as they need to. And the defense just suffocating the Texas offense. The defense being able to get tackles for loss, being able to get back there and disrupt Arch Manning. I think we see at least 2 turnovers for Oklahoma in their favor. Now, I really hope that you don't see any turnovers from Oklahoma's offense. I think they're doing really well because John Mateer threw a few interceptions early on in the season. You saw the fumble against Auburn. You really haven't seen anything else since then. And I think that's a good sign. Obviously, with Auburn, you only had Kent State after that. But you really feel good because even some of those turnovers, for example, that turnover against Temple, us as Oklahoma fans want to put an asterisk on that one. So I feel really good about this offense doing what they need. And when they do struggle, the defense having their back and the offense seeing that, feeling that, and responding big, getting down there, scoring just enough to be able to win this game. I feel really good about Oklahoma in this game, and I feel really good about Oklahoma because of their defense. I don't care who's starting at quarterback. I don't care about anything that you've seen in the past in the run game. I don't care about that. I think Oklahoma finds a way to make that run game good enough to get them through. And I think they're able to throw the ball. I think they're able to use that quarterback run to deceive this defense. I think ultimately, like I said, it's going to come down to Oklahoma's defense stopping Texas. I think Oklahoma wins this game. I'm going to pick Oklahoma 24 points. And guess what? Like I've said all season long, give me one team that you feel confident that would be able to score more than 20 points, let alone make it up to 24 points on this Oklahoma defense. I think Oklahoma scores 24, which is plenty enough to win this game. I think 24-17. That's what I'm going to go with. Sorry. Yeah, 24-17. That's what I'm going to go with. I didn't write down my prediction today. I kept on bouncing all over the place, trying to really feel that. I think Texas is going to get a couple of touchdowns where it's just those chunk plays that you want to avoid, but you just can't quite avoid them. I think Texas is able to keep this one close. I think Texas is going to do everything in their power to make sure that they are in this game in the fourth quarter. And I think one of those touchdowns probably comes in the fourth quarter. Like we mentioned, Arch Manning looks good in the fourth quarter. It's just too late. I think Oklahoma wins it. I guess that'd be by a touchdown. 24-17, that's going to be my prediction for Oklahoma winning this game. So if you're able to right now and you feel good about it, if you feel like, if you're a betting man, which I don't ever encourage, I don't like to encourage people, but if you're going to bet on this game, you might as well take that Oklahoma money line right now while you can get the most out of it. But I think that's the best way to do it. We'll jump to the chat real quick. Let's see. We've got Richard Young in the chat. What is up, Richard? Thank you for joining in tonight. He says, Vegas is hoping Texas can win because it's do or die for them. If they lose, OU knocks them out of any chance Texas makes the playoffs. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. I think that's probably, I don't know if Texas really wants Texas to win. I suppose maybe they do. But I do think that plays into it, is that I think Vegas feels the pressure that Texas is feeling. I think Vegas knows that Texas recognizes that a loss here is detrimental to their season. So I think that's really big. Thunder OU Sooner says, if Oklahoma wins, they need to give Dr. Shin a copy of Red River trophies. Send him the golden hat to hold for the season. I'm down for that. And then Jimmy Satterfield even says, or season tickets. I'm down for that as well. Yeah, let him have the trophy for a month. Let him have the golden hat. I say let him keep it all year. Let the players have their fun all weekend. And on Monday, we ship it right out there to him. Send it right to Dr. Stephen Shin. And then make sure to erect that statue but get it ready, but you don't erect it. You don't make it public until Oklahoma wins like the SEC championship, or if you want to go a step further, if Oklahoma were to win the national championship, or even just John Mateer winning the Heisman would be like, all right, you got to put that thing up. You got to put that thing up. No, it's all fun and games. We like to be crazy over here as Oklahoma fans. Jonathan says, do you believe Mateer is 100% and it's just a pain management issue, or is there a concern about a re-injury? Any concern about lack of chemistry with receivers after a few weeks out? First, with the chemistry with the receivers, I don't think there's any concern there. I think John Mateer, he's been working so well this entire offseason. I think you saw the chemistry day one. Not day one, week one is what I mean. So day one of the season. I think you saw that chemistry right away. I don't have any concerns about the chemistry. As far as 100%, I think if he plays, he's 100% ready to be out on the field. There is always going to be a concern for re-injury, but I do think it's mainly pain management at this point. Because if you've ever had any kind of injury, I think most of us have, it's usually, so for example, grip. I had a fracture in my hand a few years back, and there was a long time where it was just so hard for me to get myself to fight through the pain for that grip. And I think that's a big part of it. That's a huge part of it. So it is that pain management. So as long as he's able to work up that grip and he's out there doing his thing, I don't have too much concerns for John Mateer. I really don't. I think he went to the best surgeon that specialized in that specifically. He went to the best surgeon who's worked on a ton of big name athletes in the past. And I think there's a reason why they sent him there to Stephen Shin, to Dr. Stephen Shin. They sent him for a specific reason. I don't have any concerns for John Mateer. If he's out there, I don't think you should have to worry. Now, if you start to see players swatting at that hand, putting the helmet on the hand, that's going to happen. If you start to see that, I'm a little concerned about that because it's going to be painful. I'm not too concerned about re-injury unless there is any kind of nerve damage, because I know for me that was an issue for me, was that I had that nerve damage, and then you can feel that up your forearm. So I don't know if that's the case. They really haven't released a whole lot about the injury. They're kind of playing it smart. I wanted to say playing it dumb, but I don't think that's the right terminology. They are kind of playing dumb in the sense that I don't know. They're pretending to be. I think it's a smart move for Oklahoma to work that way. But anyways, everybody, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We went well over tonight, but that's just because you guys were amazing in the live chat tonight. So I appreciate all of you so much for jumping in that live chat, keeping us going here tonight. It is Texas Red River Week. We will throw that horns down for everybody because it's what we do at Oklahoma. All right, that's what we do. This is a rivalry. This rivalry does mean something. And you know what? I do think it's silly for Oklahoma fans to throw the horns down every week. I think it's silly. But I understand it because this is the big rivalry. It always has been Oklahoma-Texas. Oklahoma-Nebraska was a big rivalry, but ever since that one went away, Oklahoma State really wasn't much of a rivalry. Really, I mean, it wasn't. You had that banter, in-state banter, but it wasn't the Texas rivalry. So I think Red River this weekend. Make sure to tune in Saturday, October 11th. 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 3:30 Eastern Time. It's going to be live in Dallas, Texas at the Cotton Bowl. It's on ABC. Make sure to be tuned in, guys. We will be having our post-game show right after the game on Saturday, so make sure to tune in for that. It'll be me, Tierney, and Chad all here live on the channel. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to become a member for as low as $2.99 a month, scan that QR code on the screen or just click that link down in the description below. We appreciate everybody so much for tuning in. We will catch you next time. Boomer.